And companies now are going much deeper into candidate profiles because the way hiring is happening has changed. Hiring is not being treated as lightly anymore. Your career is like a living, breathing organism, and building great careers requires nurturing them with strategic guidance. Hi, my name is Sawan Kapoor, and I'm India's leading career coach, also known as the Career Guy. Welcome to the Career Headquarters. The most comprehensive career podcast on the internet, where I will bring you groundbreaking insights on everything career related. Whether you're seeking a career abroad or wanting to switch industries, whether you are entry level or a mid career professional or a senior leader, I have seen it all. As an award winning CEO of one of the largest and most profitable beverage alcohol companies, my career spanned 3 continents, multiple industries, and provided me with an accelerated roadmap to the very top. So if you want to build an exceptional career and 3x your paycheck, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to today's episode of Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast. Hi Sawan, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good as well. So today we are going to talk about a very important part of the job selection process. In fact, something that frightens most working professionals, and that is the science of interviewing. So Sawan, what's the goal of an interview? Can you talk about this both from an employer's perspective and from a potential employee's perspective?
Let me ask you, were you nervous when you interviewed here?
Not so much.
No, you had no reason to be, I hope.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think interviews are, some of the best value things that you can practice in terms of your time. See, nobody's complaining about too many amazing interviews when they have an open position. So if you invest in your interviewing skills, it can be, one of the best investments that you can make, in terms of how you're spending your time on a career campaign. See, the goal of an interview is that both you and the company, you're both trying to answer the same 2 questions. So as a candidate, the question that you're trying to answer, the 2 questions that you're trying to answer is, can you solve their problems? That is a question that deals with your competence. Do you have what it takes to get the job done? Okay, so do you have the skills, the natural talent, the educational background, the experiences, the knowledge, the personal qualities to be able to operate in that environment and be able to deliver the outcomes that are expected? That's the first question. The second question that you're trying to answer as a candidate is, do you want to solve their problems? And that is a question related to culture. Okay, because you can't be in a position where you love your paycheck but you hate the job. Right? It's not a sustainable position. And neither can you be in a position where you love your job but you hate your paycheck. So, it has to be able to provide both to you in a significant quantity, the professional fulfillment as well as a decent remuneration. So these are the 2 questions you're trying to answer as an employee, and these are the same 2 questions that the company is also looking for answers to. Can this person solve our problems? And does this person want to solve our problems? And please understand, an interview is an exchange of views. Okay? So it's the defining moment in the job search and application journey. It's that one point where you have the best opportunity to seek information as well. So I can tell you that practice is really going to make you stand out here. Interviewing is like a muscle, and the more you build it, the better you will be at it. But most people go into interviews unprepared. They have not taken the time to, scope out answers to anything. They're going in cold turkey. And that is why there is so much nervousness associated with interviewing. People who do this for a living, people who take your interview for a living, they know how to read the truth of your personality. They know how to get to your core. They know what you're saying, what you're not saying, what is your body language saying. So they have a very refined perspective on what a candidate is bringing to the table. And there are unfortunately many situations where the candidate is way better than the interview, and vice versa. It could be situations where they interview way better than who they actually are. So the interviewer's task is to get to the truth of who you are and what you will be able to do, and questions are their tools to be able to do that. So these guys are good at what they do, and if you want to break through, then please understand, with the overarching two questions that I've talked about, you need to practice a little bit, the art and science of interviewing.
Do you also run the risk of sounding too rehearsed if you practice too much? Does that happen?
It can happen. It can happen. I mean, the idea is to come from a place of sincerity and merit. It's not to come from a place of memorization, because then you'll be thinking like this, what else did I memorize? That's going to come across. So it has to be natural.
So the questions being asked in an interview, can they be classified or organized into certain categories? Is there a structure to it?
The way in which they are asked, there may not be structure to it, but you can certainly listen to a question and put it in a category. You can certainly see, there are certain questions that are core to interviewing, and I call these the most fateful questions, because these are the ones that will really determine if you get the job or you don't get the job. So tell me about yourself. Why are you applying to this position? Talk about your greatest strengths and your greatest weaknesses. What is your management style? These are all very frequently asked questions. There are 15 or so that I have identified that form this core group that you must know. At the very least, this is the group that you must know. But beyond this, please understand there are questions around your career goals. So this is a category that helps them understand what is your desire to belong. It should not just be a paycheck to you. You must want to belong. There must be some passion, some drive for you to specifically wanting to work for that company. And where you want to take your career is very closely related with that. So this is, the type of questions that test belonging. And then there are character questions. So character is destiny, and it is the single most important factor. And if you have a failing in these questions, you've closed the door for yourself there. So, this is a very important category. So a question here could be that your boss is asking you to lie on a particular project. What do you do? Right? So that's a character question. You have to understand with each question, what are they asking? What are they not asking? Right? So because your success in these questions is going to depend not only on what you say, but also on what you don't say. So what is not necessary to say, it is very necessary not to say it. So we covered the fateful 15, we covered career goal questions, we covered character questions. Then there are creativity questions. And you see, do you have the ability to deal with a dynamic environment? Because business is a very fluid environment now. And creativity is testing your ability to think outside the box and tackle situations that are not asking for your permission before they show up in your professional life. So there's no bigger agenda here. It's just testing your creativity. How rigid or fixed is your thinking, or can you go and access the periphery, the borders of your resources and how you tackle a situation or a problem. Then you have competence related questions, and these are questions that are asked to understand, do you have the competence to get the job done, the core of what is being asked in the opportunity. And lastly, you have curveball questions or spinball questions.
Stress interviews?
Well, these are questions that are disguised. So they'll ask you, the thickness of a 1 rupee coin is this much, and this is the height of the Eiffel Tower. How many 1 rupee coins will it take to get to the height of the Eiffel Tower? Now, the question here is not mathematical in nature. The question here is testing your process, right? So they're trying to, and there could be. I mean, in interviews they could ask you a question like, if you were to be an animal, what animal would you be? See, these are all things that are revealing something about you. And companies now are going much deeper into candidate profiles because the way hiring is happening has changed. Hiring is not being treated as lightly anymore. Everybody wants to identify that one great worker who can do the work of maybe three average people. Resources are expensive. So the goal here is when you come across a question, can you quickly identify what category it falls into? And can you quickly determine what is being asked and what is not being asked? Right? And then answer from a place of sincerity and merit. So this is what I would say. I mean, if you have the ability to do this quickly, and it just takes a little bit of practice, don't let this overwhelm you. 1 week will put you in an entirely different stratosphere when it comes to interviewing.
So you have to figure out the real question behind the question that's actually being
Correct.
asked.
You have to decode the question that's being asked.
All right. So coming to think of it, I was nervous.
You were? I don't know why.
Okay, so
I mean, in your case, we had already worked for a year plus, so there was a natural affinity in wanting you on board. When the opportunity came up, we grabbed it.
but you're still a very intimidating person.
Intimidating, am I? Oh, I have to tone this down.
Okay, so since we're talking about that, how can one deal with nerves and stress before an interview, during an interview, and also after an interview?
How can one deal with nerves? Well, first, let's understand why do these nerves occur? Why does this stress or tension or the sweaty palms, the butterflies in the stomach, why does this happen? This is happening because we're attached to the outcome. We want to experience a positive outcome. We want the interview to go well, and we want to get the job. We don't want to live in that, area of anxiety, in that space of not knowing. And interviews tend to do that to even the very best. So, the process is what is going to deliver the outcome. So, the more you can be attached to the process, get married to the process, not to the outcome. The outcome is allowed to inspire you, but if you get emotionally attached to the outcome, then let me tell you, the way in which you will experience disappointment if rejected will also be deeper. And that does not serve you in any way. So that's the reason why this is happening. Now, if you have habits that center you, habits like meditation or being mindful, taking some time and doing some inner reflection, some introspection, this allows you to be a neutral observer of the thoughts that are crossing your mind. And it almost slows you down, to a degree where you can see the thoughts that are going by in your mind. And your ability to examine a thought, understand will this serve you or not serve you, improves. So you can associate with the thoughts that you want to associate with, and the ones that don't serve you, you can let them go by. You can notice what kind of an emotional response is coming up. And if it is detrimental to the situation, you will have the awareness of not engaging with that emotional response. So, something like meditation can be a very powerful tool that can aid you. It's not an immediate tool. You can't start meditating today and expect that you'll interview better tomorrow. It'll take a little bit of time before, this helps you. But please remember, it's just a conversation. Right? At the end of the day, it is two people talking, or you talking to a panel. In any case, nobody is going to take away your arms or legs. Nobody is going to impose a special tax. The world is not going to come to an end because you have an interview. So a lot of people tend to make it much bigger than it is in their head. The goal is make it positive, make it confident, make it vibrant, make it professional. And what I mean is, if If you want to keep a positive tone, smile. You have to be calm and centered, but yet you have to express gladness for the opportunity. Uh, to be confident, practice. And if you've practiced, your confidence naturally will be at a different level. Know your subject. An interview may also include very specific questions on the subject matter or the functional area. The technicals, if you will. So know your subject matter. Be yourself. You're not trying to project somebody who you're not, right? So be yourself. It is your uniqueness that has to be celebrated in that interviewing process. You're already there. Look at the bright side. You've already got the interview. Now, this is a positive thing that has happened. So don't turn it negative by fretting over that, this is, wow, I've got an interview and I'm nervous. The story you tell yourself is the one you'll believe. And the ability to tell yourself a better story is only up to you. Nobody else can do that for you. Keeping it vibrant means being enthusiastic. Answer with a positive urgency, with a zeal. That doesn't mean go overboard. There is a fine line of balance there, but show them that you're willing to engage with them, right? You're carrying the energy, right?
Also about enjoying the present moment,
Absolutely.
process rather than worrying.
Absolutely. And that is something that leads to creating that appropriate chemistry. Some people you meet, you really come back with a very pleasant taste in the mouth. It's been a great meeting. And that is up to you because you're there to fit in with their mission. So, the better you can do that, the superior the chemistry will be in that space. Dress well, show your gratitude. Have when you come from a place of service, your gratitude becomes much more evident. And be courteous, right? Asking, may I sit down, is a simple step, but it gives respect to the other person. And be professional. Don't land up saying something that is inappropriate. Answer the question. Don't go all over the place beating around the bush. Crisp communication has a tremendous impact. So if you can answer the questions concisely, that is going to make an impression. So what I would say in terms of before, during, and after is before, prepare, understand that there are these 6 categories. Rehearse your answers, don't memorize them. Right? Rehearse, don't memorize. And expect the best, but be prepared for the worst. During the interview, be yourself. First and foremost, you're not trying to be someone you're not. So be yourself, be fully present. It's a positive opportunity. Eye contact, a firm handshake, all of these little things will matter. And after, send a thank you letter. Learn how an acceptance letter or a rejection letter is written, and never close the door. Even if it doesn't go well, you need to do certain things. You need to send that thank you letter. So even if it doesn't go well and they land up selecting somebody else, that's absolutely fine. And again, there are a number of strategies that we use to differentiate yourself at every stage of interviewing. So one of the things that we do in the thank you letter is to add something called a focus piece that takes the major bullet points of agreement that occurred in that meeting with the interviewer and brings it back to their attention. Because look at it from their perspective. They are going to meet a multitude of candidates. So to be able to remember everyone is going to be hard, and your career is your responsibility.
So generally, the interview is looked at as a process in which the interviewer asks questions and the interviewee answers. But what are the questions that interviewees can ask the company or the employee or the employer, and is it necessary to ask questions?
Yes, I think it's very important because this is an area where I think almost every interview ends with the interviewer saying, "Do you have any questions for me?" And most people know nothing at the moment. And what it's saying is, "I'm just looking for a paycheck." And I think like I was talking about earlier, an interview is really your best opportunity to exchange views, and it's an interview. It's an exchange of you understanding the opportunity and the company and the role and the culture, and them understanding you. So, no party is at an advantage or a disadvantage, though it feels that the company always holds the balance of power, if you will. So, I think it's very important to ask questions, questions like, what would a typical day look like in this position? It's going to tell you this is something you're going to engage with. You're going to land up spending more time here than you are at home. So, it's important to understand that. What are the core values of the company? The characters, the characteristics that you look for that represent these values in a candidate.
Can you also ask what the interviewer's experience has been like with the company?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you could ask, what do you like most about working in this organization? What do you like least? And then again, you have to listen, because see, just the way you are putting your best foot forward, even the company is putting its best foot forward. They also want to attract the best talent. Are there any opportunities for personal development? And if so, what do they look like? What kind of additional training or seminars or webinars or what else can I get here to be able to continue to be relevant to the organization and the roles that exist here? Who will I be working closely with? The names and titles of these people. And you want to understand this not just above you and below you, not just the people who might be reporting to you or who you might be reporting to you, but even cross-functionally, across that peer group. What is the most challenging aspect of this role? What should I watch out for? A real world understanding of what you're dealing with is going to be very important to be successful. And job description sometimes can be a little idealistic. There is typically always a gap between how the job looks like on paper and what the ground reality of the job turns out to be. So it's important to come to a more realistic understanding and to be able to read between the lines when it comes to a position. Another great question to ask is, anything on my resume or my background that is a concern? Am I a good fit? I mean, it's showing that you're invested. It's showing that you are committed and that the outcome matters to you. And it's also an opportunity to understand where you stand. And if there are any immediate objections, it gives you an opportunity to be able to handle them. And all of this positions you as a differentiated candidate, right? So ask these questions with sincerity, ask them, with a tone of inquiry, and I think it makes a huge difference to the interview.
All right. Should a candidate set objectives for an interview?
I think so, yes. Well, some in general, some would be very specific to the role and the situation, but I think in general, the few objectives that I feel apply to most interviews. First and foremost, the idea should be to turn the interview into a meeting. Don't let it be too formal. Okay, the more free flowing it becomes, the better the opportunity for them to truly learn you and for you to truly learn them. Now, this does not mean you land up crossing boundaries that you shouldn't cross. It doesn't mean, hey, buddy, don't compromise on the respect with which you need to be perceived, and that is a function of the kind of respect you need to offer to the interviewer in that session. So this is not about becoming pally. It's about becoming the person who can be approached easily, right? So turn the interview into a meeting. It serves everyone's benefit. The second thing is to really understand what are the pain points, the challenges, and the opportunities that the role presents. And in what order will you deal with them? Because there might be some pain points for which you need to earn a certain amount of trust before those opportunities are sent your way, right? They may be more complicated in the nature of of what those opportunities or projects or pain points are. So understanding that order will also allow you to think about the kind of career roadmap that you'll be able to build. Of course, learning about the culture of the company is one of the paramount objectives of such a session. And asking for things like, what is it to like to work for this senior leadership team? How much of an interest do they take in the individual development plans of associates here? And then even talking about the impact of industry issues, because these are shared experiences. What that allows you to do is that it allows you to start building a warmer relationship. If two people are suffering the same pain, then their connection is going to be superior. It's going to be warmer, right? So if you talk about industry issues, and COVID has been one that almost every industry and business has gone through. But I remember back in the day when the financial meltdown happened, and 40% of the sales of the company that I was working for were in the restaurant channel. And the financial mess that was created, people stopped going out. They didn't have that extra discretionary income to splurge on meals outside the home. So correct. I mean, these. I'm just giving you an example of an industry issue that can create a little better foundation to building that relationship, because you want to impact your likability factor without coming across as you're trying to impact your likability factor.
Okay.
So, and this allows you to do that. The other assessment you should make is, what stage is the company in? So is it a startup? Is it a turnaround? Is it a company that is going through accelerated growth? Is it a company that was a market leader but has slipped since and now needs some realignment? Is it a company that is a market leader and is learning how to sustain its success? Because the challenges, the opportunities, the objectives in front of a company based on where it is are going to be very different. So if it's a startup, and India has a phenomenal startup ecosystem, I think startups are going to be one of the biggest sectors in terms of employment in 2022 and beyond. At a startup, things aren't defined yet. The culture is yet forming. The technology is yet being adopted. So you play a very instrumental role in all of that. But it also requires you to be able to deal with ambiguity, right? Because the answers are not formed yet, right? Turnarounds can be situations where the company is bleeding money. You don't have all of the information, and yet you need to take some decisions, and they could be very hard decisions. Accelerated growth could be an environment where there is a great market opportunity to, capitalize on the growth that is coming your way, but for that you need to staff up, and it may dilute your culture, which may further then lead to problems. Each situation will present many different factors. I'm just giving you an example of one or two for each situation. A real alignment could be a situation where the company used to be a market leader but isn't anymore. And they are not recognizing the need for change because the building is not on fire. See, if the building is on fire, it's very easy to convince people to exit the building. But if it's not on fire and you're asking people to exit the building, they'll say, "Where's the fire?" So, and again, sustaining success can be a place where, that success goes to the head of people. So you have to watch out for that because you have to reinvent yourself every day. And, the thinking that got you there is not going to take you to the next level. So the objectives in front of each of these organizations will be different. And then, once you have understood all of this perspective, if asked, then you can share a little bit of your vision for that industry, for companies in that position, the road ahead, what it may look like. But again, do so tactfully, smartly. Don't make it too rigid. This is the only way to go. One option may be and you can detail your answer. So, these are some objectives. Turn the interview into a meeting, confirm the needs that the organization has, uncover the culture of the organization, discuss the impact of industry issues. It will help you develop a stronger relationship, which impacts your likability factor. Understand where the company is, in terms of the stage where it is operating, and talk about the road ahead. I think these are some very good objectives to have in an interview.
All right. Thank you. So I think after going through this episode, people won't find interviews so frightening after all.
I hope not. It's just a conversation. So
It's all about being prepared.
that's right. That's right. And that's what will lead to confidence. 1 week can separate you from the lot.
So Savan, you go deep into interviewing in your course, but you also provide a free resource, an ebook called Interview Questions Master.
That's right. And that's a fantastic ebook because it details those fateful 15 questions. So you get a very deep understanding of what is the real question behind the question. And then you get a detailed understanding of how to tackle that question. And that also includes how to tackle salary negotiations. See, because please understand, the company is trying to get you for the least cost. You're trying to maximize the package at which you're being hired. These two forces are fighting each other. And there is an art to being able to do this. And the process can differ when you're dealing, for opportunities that are coming through a recruiter. The process will be different. So please understand, there are answers to such situations. Getting a 3x is possible. And that ebook starts to give you a fairly deep idea of how to tackle such a conversation. So.
And we also have another episode on salary negotiations.
That's right. We have a whole separate episode dedicated to salary negotiations. I think that is going to be a very popular topic as well.
Yes. So anyone who wants to binge has a lot of resources at hand.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Pleasure.
Thank you. See you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast dedicated to building exceptional careers. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share this with someone you think would benefit from the ideas and the insights shared on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple, Google, Overcast, Castro, or Breaker. If you want to learn more about building an extraordinary career for yourself, I invite you to come attend my free Power Up Your Career live workshop. In this workshop, I will teach you the step-by-step process of landing your dream job in less than 90 days. The link to register is in the description below, and I will see you live at the workshop.